behavioral sciences unit at Quantico, the subject of Netflix's Mindhunter, even though the leaders of the unit declared to this author personally that all serial killers were male. In 2015, psychologist Marissa Harrison and a group of women colleagues published a review of female serial killers that found they tend to carry out their crimes over a longer period of time, have more victims, are frequently nurses, or serve some other caretaker role. They choose victims who had little or no chance of fighting back. The FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit may not have noticed it, but the phenomenon is hardly new. In the 19th century, American nurse Jane Topping confessed to 31 murders of patients in Massachusetts. In England, nurse Catherine Wilson was caught poisoning her frail charges in the 1850s and 1860s, while a French nurse, Antoinette Sierry, killed those in her care in the 1920s. In the early 1900s, Amelia Sack and Annie Walters ran an adoption business in the UK, but instead of rehoming the babies, they smothered or poisoned them. The total number of victims was thought to be in the dozens. Amy Archer Gilligan, born one Halloween night in the late 19th century, murdered husbands to cash in life insurance policies that financed the nursing home she ran, whose residents she poisoned. The authorities counted 48 deaths at the Archer Home for the Elderly and Infirm that they thought were at her hands rather than due to natural causes. In popular culture, her crime spree sparked not Gothic tales of Jack the Ripper, but a comedic play, Arsenic and Old Lace, which nicely sums up the difference in how we regard serial killers by gender. In July 2018, a British healthcare worker was arrested on the suspicion that she had murdered 8 babies and tried to kill 6 others while she worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital in northwestern England. Days later, there were reports that a Japanese nurse had been arrested on the suspicion that she'd injected disinfectant into intravenous bags, killing approximately 20 elderly patients in her care at a Yokohama hospital. So this subgenre of serial murderer continues to flourish. The question worth asking ourselves, and the men of Quantico, is whether we aren't looking out for such killers because we don't truly value their victims, or because we cannot abandon the image of nurturing women. Contrary to preconceived notions about women being incapable of these extreme crimes, as Harrison and her collaborators concluded in 2015, the women in our study poisoned, smothered, burned, choked, bludgeoned, and shot newborns, children, elderly, and ill people, as well as healthy adults. Most often, those who knew and likely trusted them. This was the same point I made when I first published this book. Unconscious biases are incredibly difficult to erase. One such killer is typical, in a number of ways, of all the others. A plump, middle-aged nurse with mousy hair and crooked teeth she tried to conceal when she smiled, who was known to her co-workers in small-town Ontario as Bethy Wetlaufer. When the scholars were publishing their 2015 review of her fellow predators, Wetlaufer was winding up a decade-long killing spree that, to this day, would have gone completely undetected if she hadn't decided to walk into a Toronto psychiatrist's office and confess. 8 people had died at her hands, she confided. She'd injected them with lethal doses of insulin between 2007 and 2016. There were, she added, 6 more victims who survived, in 3 different long-term care homes and 1 private residence. These were men and women with long, vibrant lives and families who loved them and were shocked by their sudden passing, but who accepted the institutional write-offs, the lack of autopsies, and the shrugging condolences. Old people. They die. On October 16, 2016, Wetlaufer was arrested and charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder. Police would later add 4 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. She pled guilty to all charges and was sentenced to life in prison, where, like many female serial killers, she has said virtually nothing that